This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. So this week, I don't know how I allowed this to get by me. There, of course, was a contentious exchange, to say the least, between Senator Rand Paul and the person who will be apparently taking over for Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, who is another senator. So these guys served together in the U.S. Senate, and they absolutely hate each other. So I am going to talk about that a little bit. I mean, there was an 8 minute, every senator gets 10 minutes. There was an 8 minute exchange. Rand Paul is a very intense individual. I've talked to him a little bit over the years, not much, but because he's a libertarian and he's into justice reform, I've had opportunity to talk to him about justice reform a little bit. He's against mandatory minimum policy. He's an interesting member because he doesn't just do what you expect or what the party tells him to do. And that makes him interesting right there. But at any rate, he wasn't a happy camper at this hearing. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. So let's take a look at this congressional hearing this week. This got very interesting very quickly.
The record should show, and I think will show, a lack of contrition, no apology, and no regrets for your support. You completely understand the violence that was perpetrated on me. You're unrepentant. The only thing you quibble about is whether I met you somehow when you were in the House. I don't think we ever met when you were in the House. And this idea that the only thing you're upset about is not that you were for violence. What you're upset about is that I called you a liar because you said it to my face. So it's really more about this machismo that you have. When in Oklahoma, the media ask you about the refugee welfare programs, the programs you voted to continue funding, it was this whole idea that you were going to transfer it because you were uncomfortable, your anger, low impulse control, causes you to then go after and decide that you're going to go after me as well. And so you say you completely understood that I was assaulted from behind, had 6 ribs broken and part of my lung removed. And that was just fine. That's something that you, I guess, approve of as far as resolution of political problems. When I talked to you privately on the phone, there was no apology. You just said, well, we can let our political difference go by. And you said a few minutes ago, we can just set it aside. Well, political differences we can, but when you say that you agree with a felon, a Trump-hating felon who attacked me, somehow you think I'm just going to set that aside? Oh, it's no big deal. I lay in pain for 2 months, had 6 ribs broken, 3 of them separated, grinding upon bone for months, had part of my lung removed, and you think that's great and to be extolled. I mean, the sheer lack of any kind of self-awareness that you're going to be leading thousands of men and women who will have the use of force, and there's been great questions in our country about how that will be used, and you think a violent attack is just fine. So I guess my first question is, do you think that justifying that kind of violence sets a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I didn't know the extent of your damage. When the phone call was made, I made it to you and I tried to talk to you. You didn't engage at all. In fact, you said, get your paperwork in. It's got to be 3 days in between.
You offered no apology.
Sir?
And you offer no apology today and no regrets.
One of the things to understand here is that Markwayne Mullin does have this machismo persona. Rand Paul is right about that. He loves to come off as big tough guy. Big tough guy. He threatened to beat up a witness during a hearing, or threatened to take him on physically. And the witness, I'm not sure why he picked the person he picked. The guy is the president of the Teamsters. You really want to get into a fight with a dude that's the president that was a Teamster? You got to be kidding me. I'm surprised he didn't end up missing after that one. But at any rate, Markwayne Mullin thinks he's a tough guy. And it's interesting to listen to this because really, it is the most quiet and most non-reactive I've ever seen Markwayne Mullin in this first opening 3 minutes of this.
Haven't
I don't-
heard the word apologize, haven't heard the word regret, haven't heard I misspoke and it was heated and I made a mistake. Haven't
Actually,
heard any
it-
of those words.
Sir, actually, it wasn't heated, and I'm not apologizing for pointing out your
Good,
character.
good. So you're jolly well fine, and you want the American public and the people up here to vote, that may or may not vote for you, to know that you supported the felonious, violent attack on me from behind.
I did not say I supported it. I said I understood it. There's a difference.
Oh, so
By
that-
calling you,
And so that means you really didn't approve of it, just completely understand it. What do you think most people would interpret completely understand to be? Support for or a condemnation of the violence?
Sir, as I said, we can have our differences. It's not going to keep me from doing my job as Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm going to secure Kentucky and take care of Kentucky as
If this,
much as I am
if this were a one-off, it would be one thing. If you just disliked me so much that you approved of violence against me, people could just write it off. Well, maybe they hate each other. But really, there's a pattern of this. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
I know what this is going to be. This is a video of him, and this is what I was just talking about.
We can be good as adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine, perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand up, Mullin.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution?
Oh, no, sit down. Sit down. No, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Okay, sit down, please.
All right. Can I respond?
Hold it.
If he got up too, would you have gone at it right there?
I would have probably jumped over the dais at that point.
You have to be.
Markwayne Mullin thinks he's a tough guy, but when the moment comes, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. You can run your mouth all you want, but when somebody starts moving forward,
Not this guy continues to get away with this stuff, and it's just, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you get punched in the face.
Well, go back to the 1800s and 1700s, they used to have canes.
And duels, and they said
And
duels.
duels.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a way that men used to settle their differences. I ignored him 4 times prior to that. And people say, yes, you're supposed to ignore it. Well, I'm not a very good Christian. I try to be a good Christian. And I know people say you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I prefer the David method.
But we need to move from an almost
By the way, I'm not afraid of Biden. I will Biden.
fighting.
Oh, I'm Biden.
oh, I'm not afraid of fighting. He wants you to know that. Oh, I'm a tough guy. I'm not afraid of fighting. This is an interesting little clip reel that Rand Paul ran here.
I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. I'll do anything. I'm not above it. And I don't care where I fight. It's just,
In hindsight, any regrets?
no, I really don't.
So no regrets. In fact, even after your anger had cooled, you were still bragging that if he'd only been brave enough to stand up, you'd have jumped over the dais and taught him a lesson, because that's how men should settle their differences. Do you think fighting as a resolution for political differences is a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
As you can notice over my shoulder here is my good friend Sean O'Brien. Both of us have had conversations. Both of us have shaken hands, and both of us agreed we could have done things different. Sean is someone that has become a close friend. We talk all the time.
They're both idiots. Both of them are very questionable in terms of how they comport themselves. But this fake tough guy nonsense, a lot of talk going on, which is why they're friends now, because of course there wasn't going to be a real fight. That was all bravado nonsense, right? So now, ooh, we're friends now. Of course you are, because you were never going to fight in the first place. You just wanted to look tough. Looking tough and being tough are two different things.
On his podcast, we've talked through this. That's how you handle your differences. Not like this, Chairman.
I'm glad you guys are friends now and that you've reconciled. But really, it doesn't get to the real point whether or not you think violence is the way we settle things. In the days after the fight, you said, and I quote, sometimes people just need to be punched in the face. Is that still your opinion, that political disputes can sometimes and often only be resolved by violence?
No, I don't always agree with that. I don't believe in political violence. I've made that very clear. But sometimes people do
perpetrated on
need,
me.
theoretically speaking, sir, I get it. It's about character assassination for you. That's the way this game is played. I understand it. And you are making this about you, which is fine, but that doesn't keep me as
It's
Secretary of Homeland
character
Security.
assassination when you were the one lauding the assault. Who do you think started that character assassination? I'm just repeating what you have done in character assassination. I'm repeating your support for the assault. So that's somehow something I started.
No, sir. What I'm saying is you're adding a lot to it.
You know, Markwayne, well, let me just say something here. I've been covering Congress since the early 2000s. I was a staffer on the Senate side. Markwayne Mullin's an idiot. He's just one of these idiot members that showed up, not very bright, and this is how he does things. There's never any real depth to what he says. He's not a deep thinker. So the fact that Rand Paul, and we do in our recent politics of like the last 15 years, we got a lot of people showing up that are not very bright. They're just not. That is not the caliber that you saw in the generation before that. Okay. Markwayne Mullin is just an average guy who's gotten extremely far. And of course, he's a very useful idiot for Donald Trump, because what he's there for is to just do what he's told. He's not going to think independently. He's going to do whatever anyone tells him to do. And if the president tells him to do something, he is going to do it, whether it's right, wrong, or anything else. And that is how he got this job. And that's how Kristi Noem got her job. And that's how Bondi got her job. They get jobs in the Trump administration because of loyalty to Donald Trump and being the person who will do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. That is the entire job qualification. So, of course, to be a lackey for somebody, you don't have to be smart. You just have to be obedient. And Markwayne Mullin, unfortunately, is one of the dumber members of Congress. And so it didn't surprise me when his name came up, because anybody who's got a brain in their head, of course, who can think for themselves, would never get involved in this type of an administration. And Rand Paul, on the other hand, agree or disagree with him. Usually I actually disagree with him on a lot of things, but he's a deep thinking type of person, which is why Markwayne Mullin sort of breaks down here and starts just saying stuff. This is about character assassination, because he's got nothing to say, because he's just not deep at all.
In the days after the fight, you did many interviews in which you justified the violence as historically justified by precedents, such as caning and dueling. Is it today your opinion that the caning of Charles Sumner was not only justified, but argues still for resolving our political differences with violence?
What I was simply pointing out is some of the rules that still apply to this body. For instance, dueling with 2 consenting adults is still there.
This is so stupid. Anyway, let me go to the chat, because the chat's a lot more intelligent than the thing that we're watching on this screen. Oh my gosh, he's a mixed martial artist. Of course he's a mixed martial artist. Markwayne Mullin, for some reason, needs to be showing people at all times how macho he is and how tough I don't know what that's about. Okay, because I've never seen him in a fight. I've never seen him conduct a fight. All his bravado against the guy over his shoulder, he never actually did anything. He runs his mouth. But for some reason, he wants to build this macho persona. That is his definition of manhood, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But what I see is somebody who likes to run their mouth that doesn't actually do anything. Did he graduate from high school, Manuel? I don't know if he did, but I just would say personally, I don't know that matters. I've seen a lot of intelligent people who've never graduated from high school. I've seen a lot of dumb people who have degrees, that have master's degrees and PhDs, that can't do common basic sense in the world. So I don't judge people based on the letters after their name, because that is all over the place. I've met too many people in the places that I've worked that had highfalutin degrees from really big universities, and I'm including Ivy League universities, Harvard, etc., and so on. And they did not have any common sense. They were book smart and they were street stupid. And we live in a world where being street smart is actually a lot more valuable a lot of times. And then I've met people who never you remember that Bill Gates dropped out of college. A lot of people who are successful dropped out of college. Steve Jobs dropped out of college. Some people have been extremely successful and never went to college. And some people have been extremely successful, particularly in that World War II era, where people would, come out of high school and then go into World War II, and then they were really successful. So that to me is, I don't care if Markwayne went to high school or not. I actually happen not to know the answer, but intelligence means a lot of different things in our world, in our society. Let me just get back to the video, and I'll go back after that to the chat. This is almost over.
I was pointing out what is
Been
still
illegal for
acceptable.
170 years. There's no precedent for legal dueling. Even then, they fled the country. Do you realize that the man that beat Charles Sumner with a cane, he beat him till he was unconscious? You know why no senators intervened? Because his friend held a gun on the other senators, and he kept beating him until he crushed his skull. That's what you're insinuating is the precedent of the Senate, and that's what you live by. That is a very, very dangerous sentiment.
This is one of the dumbest exchanges you'll see from your elected officials on the federal level. These two from the U.S. Senate. Rand Paul, I could say a lot of things about Rand Paul. He's a senator from Kentucky. He's very conservative. He's a libertarian, but he's also very intelligent. There's a lot of people who I don't like, who are very intelligent, or I don't agree with, who are very intelligent. He happens to be one of them. He's an intelligent guy. And Markwayne, as you can see, can't handle this. He just went silent on that statement. He literally just went silent. There was no reaction from Markwayne Mullin because Markwayne Mullin is not that bright.
There are half a dozen victory lap interviews where you pointed out that the union guy was just lucky that fear kept him from standing up. Dana Bash asked you if you have any regrets about bringing violence to a Senate committee, and you replied that you have no regrets. Today you've said you have no regrets about being happy, being completely understanding why I was attacked from behind. You had no regrets about instigating a brawl in a Senate committee hearing. Are those still your opinions?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have your opinion. I'm going to have mine. As Secretary of Homeland Security, I'm going to bring peace of mind and security to this country, and I'm going to stay laser focused on that.
Right.
Senator Peters.
We can hope. We only hope that that's correct because he's going to head a very important agency. The Department of Homeland Security is like really, really important. So he's going to be heading that. It also the agency also has the biggest budget, I think, in the government. It's into the billions of dollars because they were allocated billions of dollars for immigration policy. Markwayne Mullin, again, one of the dumbest people in Congress, in my opinion, one of the dumbest people in Congress. The only reason Trump picked him is because he will do exactly what the president tells him to do. He will not question anything. He will do it, and he will not question anything. And he's not smart enough, frankly, to question anything. So this thing that just happened in here. I mean, I get the chain of questioning that Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky is trying to put out there, but really it doesn't matter because even if Markwayne Mullin sat there and said, "Look, I may have said some things before about you, Senator Paul, that maybe I regret saying and probably shouldn't have said it. And if it hurts you so bad, I apologize." You can just apologize. Markwayne Mullin isn't even smart enough to do that. He's not even smart enough to say, "Well, wait a minute. Maybe to get through this confirmation hearing, I should apologize to this guy," in some form. Doesn't do it because he's got to be Mr. Tough Guy, and being Mr. Tough Guy is more important than apologizing. Now, it just so happens yesterday he got by the vote because John Fetterman, who's really a Republican masquerading as a Democrat. I don't know why John Fetterman doesn't just change parties. Fetterman voted for Markwayne Mullin. Of course he did, because Fetterman is just as dumb as Markwayne Mullin is. So you do have this sort of idea that these people have that being macho is more important than real specific public policy of any kind. But this was not really a statement about public policy. This was Rand Paul being very irritated about something and going after Markwayne Mullin. And actually, I think kind of a thoughtful way. Friend zone millionaire. Yeah. I mean, the duel story, which I don't really necessarily want to go through, but the duel story on the Senate floor, involving two senators is something that, Rand Paul brought up. Rand Paul is, like I said, he's smart. He's smart. Rand Paul is smart. And Markwayne Mullin is he likes to show off that, "Oh, I said it and I'm not going to apologize. I said it and I'm not going to apologize. Oh, look at me. I'm a badass." I mean, whatever, man. In the end, what is about to happen, I want everybody to pay attention to the most important thing. The most important thing is not really my opinion. The most important thing is this guy is about to head the Department of Homeland Security, and he is going to do whatever Donald Trump tells him to do with billions of dollars under his control. And he left a job in the U.S. Senate to do it, probably because he wasn't that interested in being in the U.S. Senate, because most people would just stay in the Senate. At any rate, he is probably going to be a dangerous, useful idiot for Donald Trump. That's what this is all headed towards. And of course, Donald Trump is wasting our tax dollars for no reason, and now asking for 400 billion to fight a war that nobody really needed. Yeah, we're paying like 1.2. Somebody had estimated $2 billion a day for the war in Iran. I don't think the numbers are completely in yet. There have been some numbers that have been put out there, but I don't know if they're accurate. We got to kind of wait for more information to come in on that. Wouldn't surprise me if it was 2 billion a day. Wouldn't surprise me because that war is extremely expensive. At any rate, I just wanted to go over that because that is just sort of the epitome of some of the people who are coming into Congress, and then this guy gets a promotion in the same world where we get lectured about DEI and merit, right? Oh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who went to Harvard Law School, isn't there because of merit. That's what the Republicans are trying to. That's what these MAGA Republicans are trying to say, that somebody that went to Harvard Law School isn't there because they're smart. It's just, it's DEI. Yeah, right. DEI ain't taking your test, and DEI ain't taking that bar exam that you had to take. That's for damn sure. you had to take that bar exam. DEI ain't showing up and taking it for you. You got to pass that. Everybody's got to pass that. Male, female, rich, poor, black, white. You got to pass the bar. And you got to pass all your tests and exams when you're in school, regardless of how you may have gotten in. You might have gotten in on legacy. George Bush got into Yale because of legacy. And, John McCain used to famously talk about how he got into Annapolis because, of course, I think his grandfather was an admiral, right? So, I mean, he got in because he was John McCain III. I mean, whatever. But you still got to take tests. You still got to pass. John McCain used to joke about how he was last in his class in Annapolis, but he got through it, And these guys make me sick because, as I say, Markwayne Mullin, in my opinion, is one of the dumbest members of Congress. We've got one of the dumbest members leaving. But at any rate, he's going into a very important job. And Donald Trump is going to be scary using somebody like this. And in a weird way, Kristi Noem might have been a better thing, because I suspect Kristi Noem didn't agree with everything, even though she was doing a lot of it. She probably, low-key, probably tried to, in some way, avoid some of the things that she was required to do in that job. But you never know. But Markwayne Mullin is just going to do exactly what he's told. He is not going to if he questions anything, I will come back and do a video. If Markwayne Mullin shows any sign of questioning or pushing back against policies of Donald Trump, I will come back and do an apology. You want to talk about apology videos? I will come back and do an apology video and analyze what happened, if in fact that happens. I highly, highly doubt that happens, because Markwayne Mullin is just, he's not built for that. He's not cut. Mr. Tough Guy. Let's see how tough he is when Donald Trump tells him to do something he doesn't want to do, or order something that's against the Constitution. Let's see how tough Markwayne is when that happens. This is so funny. I mean, the fact that the guy does mixed martial arts is, in fact, comical. Again, it's all showpiece, tough guy nonsense. Whatever. Let's see what happens at the Department of Homeland Security. This hearing was, I believe, on Wednesday. He did pass through, I think, by one vote, again, because of John Fetterman, who, of course, will be a one-and-done senator, because there's no way the Democratic Party's nominating his ass again. And even if they did, he's not going to get voted in again. He's going to get thrown out because the voters ain't having that. John Fetterman has been an absolute rolling disaster in so many ways. And so that's what's going on with that. I want to thank everybody for joining. I'm soon to have a mail club called BVN Mail Club, in which I will be mailing personally thousands of people. And the link for that, it's $12 a month. The link for that, but you get stuff. You get cool stuff that, the reason for this, by the way, is kind of a middle finger to AI, because when we were writing each other and having that connection with each other, that was a better deal than what we do in the digital age, which is people saying stuff anonymous between fake names or behind fake names on the internet. And you can see that that's perfected on X. That's part of the reason why you have confrontations like this between Senator Markwayne Mullin and Senator Rand Paul. They're not forging a connection with each other. They're fooling around with, each other probably online and not really directly. And you get this type of thing. It is going to be a rough ride at the Department of Homeland Security. And it matters because Trump is going to use that department for a lot of things. And, I will just say, keep an eye. But again, I'll come back and apologize if I'm wrong about Markwayne Mullin and we hear some report in the New York Times, the Washington Post, or something like that, saying that he pushed back on a Department of Homeland Security policy that Donald Trump wanted, I will come back and do an apology video. Absolutely. Because then he would not be the dumbest. He would not be one of the dumbest members of the Congress, which I believe he is. But maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. And he's just quite something. Hard facts indeed, Brian. Hard facts indeed. So anyway, this is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. It is noon. It is noon on the East Coast of the United States of America. And I do this show. I try to do it daily. There's a lot to talk about out there. But I'm Lauren Burke. I've worked for 4 members of the U.S. Congress. I've worked for a statewide elected official in Virginia, the Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax. I worked in state government in New York for Assemblyman Paul Herrenberg, one of my first political jobs. And I've worked in big media in New York at Disney, and really ABC News, and it became Disney. I worked at 77 West 66th Street, which is a lot of fun because I'm from New York, so that was a fun ride. But I also worked at ABC in New York, my first real job in journalism. When I say real job, bigger job, I mean, I worked at my student papers and high school papers and all that. My first real job was Cokie Roberts. She hired me as her personal assistant. I learned a lot in that job. Then went on to a bunch of other stuff. So at any rate, I've worked in media. I've worked in politics. I talk about that. And I gotta cut out because I have to go watch something in court in a few hours that promises to be quite interesting. Thankfully, in this case, the judge involved seems like a fair person and a good guy. I am not a party in the case. I'm just watching, but I like to watch court proceedings and have watched many of them many of them over the years, usually federal court, but there's a lot going on. I've got my own publication called Black Virginia News on Substack. And I also will have a mail club. It will be called BVN Mail Club. And like I said, we have to get back to a sort of personal connection, writing each other directly and communicating with each other directly. Because like I said, social media has really destroyed a lot of that, unfortunately. And in the chat, I really appreciate everybody joining. Brian Babin, somebody using what sounds like their real name. Congratulations for that. Almost nobody does that. I'm not even doing that. I think my handle is Lauren Live or something. At any rate, good job out there. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the day. This is Lauren Burke. Thanks, Friend Zone Millionaire, for joining. I really appreciate the comments. And I can see that you're a history buff. I was a history major. Probably should have gotten an MBA, but it's okay. This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. I'll be back soon.
time.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make sure that my legends get a payoff.
Totally do.
They get their money's worth.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Independent media, you're kicking ass. Talking about sounds like Mandambi. And I got two questions. Why wouldn't you just be endorsing him? And also, are you talking to Mayor Adams and the governor?
With respect to affordability, in my opening day remarks here in the House of Representatives, I was very clear that House Democrats were going to focus on lowering the high cost of living.
Don't like. It's a negative commentary on a certain group of people for absolutely no reason. I actually don't think